Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Minions of the Zoo. I am your host, Johnny Hellcat, and with me today is Minion, Terry Diamantis.
Hello.
Sanguine will be joining us as soon as his internet acts right.
Mm-hmm.
And we may be being joined by ChaosEve, but we will see if she's able to make that.
She might have internet as bad as Sanguine's. And
It is possible.
hmm.
But how are you doing today?
Not bad. For some reason, I remembered the Shadowrun video game on the Super Nintendo. So I spent like the last couple of hours just reading a walkthrough going, oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a good game.
Is that the one where you escape the first part by putting on sunglasses?
Well, sort of. So you get killed at the start, and then like the fox lady brings you back to life.
Yeah.
And then if you when you leave the morgue, the two doctors will run away because you're a zombie.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to the doctors in the morgue, you'd have to put the sunglasses on.
Yeah. Because then they're like, oh, yeah, it's just some guy.
Yeah. And if you get a police badge, you can even ask about one of the dead bodies and steal his concert tickets.
Yeah.
So he's apparently just put in with concert tickets on him, so you can just you know pull open the slab with his dead body and the concert tickets and get yourself into the club.
Well, it's been
So
forever since I played that game, but that's the main thing I remember is that first part where
yeah,
you're like,
well, as
it's very Clark Kent Superman-ish.
yeah, as a kid, I always got to the same point and then stopped. Um, like after you finish the first area, you get taken to the car yards, and you can either pay the king to get out, or you can just kill him. And as a kid, I could never kill him, and he needs so much money that I was just like, I'm never going to get this. So I'd always play the first section, and then say, okay, I can return the game to the video shop now.
Yeah. And I beat the game. Like, there we go.
But as an adult, I did go back on the emulator and finish it properly. But yeah, as a kid, I didn't even know there was an arena, which is where you're meant to make all the money to pay the king to leave,
Ah.
or just kill him. But like, I thought the arena was this tiny little area where there's like two or three bad guys, and you can just you know very very slowly make money that way. I think that's going to take forever. But no, if you go to the top of the car yards, there's an actual arena where you can get like serious money for killing the enemies. That is where you're meant to go. And yeah, as an adult, I figured that out far more easily than as a kid.
Yeah, it's been so long. I might have to just throw that into on the list of games to play because
It
yeah,
is fun. Um, I did get a little frustrated with the combat because Super Nintendo, you're trying to use a Super Nintendo controller to move the aiming target
yeah,
for where you want to shoot, and it's just a pain in the ass. Because if the enemy moves too quickly, the lock on fails, and you've got to try and get it back onto the enemy, which is just incredibly annoying. But that aside, it is fun. Like it is interesting to. There's Sanguine.
welcome back.
Hello, sorry about that. I'm having some connection issues because it is snowing where I am.
Tell it to stop.
And that apparently is fucking with my internet.
So it seems.
Clearly,
Because everything just suddenly dropped out and dropped out hard for a moment there.
And Della says he misses video rental stores because he used to rent games and consoles. I never rented a console. I always owned the console that I wanted to play the games on. But I rented so many games back in the day.
The consoles that they rented were so not worth it. Like, by the time you were able to afford to rent the console, you couldn't afford to rent the game to go with the console.
I do remember Earthworm Jim. I rented that game so many times it literally would have been cheaper to buy it. But I mean, I was a teenager. It was easy to get $5 to rent it. It was not so easy to get $100 to buy it. So
Yep.
over the course of several weeks, I did rent it more than 20 times, and it would have been cheaper to buy it outright. But
But there goes the difficulty with being able to judge long-term costs versus short-term costs.
well, also I had no idea how long it would take me to finish it.
Ta-da, there she is.
Hey, busy.
Here I am. I found me.
Hey, how it goes?
It goes.
That's good. Always better than the alternative.
True.
Yes.
Yes, being dead is better than the alternative. Wait a minute. Hang on, that's not what you meant.
Being dead has
Being alive is
significant
better than
drawbacks.
being dead.
I think you should consider the downsides to being dead. They are quite significant.
I mean...
Now, if you can be the cool sorts of being undead, then that has advantages, but
I wouldn't know anything about
See-
that, Sanguine.
seeing as how a lot of people seem to attempt but fail, it isn't the best option either.
Well, I just demonstrated I have more self-control than most of my Discord, so, I mean... They were doing those don't
Fantastic.
react challenges with the like 80s, 90s, and 2000s music, and they did Disney music and stuff, and I'm like, y'all some weak-ass bitches not reacting to this shit.
Ah.
But
So
they're
was
like, oh,
don't
really? Well, you're
sing
so tough, turn
along.
your camera on. I was like, yeah, don't sing along, don't dance, don't nothing,
See,
Don't
the
react
don't
at all.
sing along would be the hard part. The don't dance, I can be a fucking statue. But
Right.
if it's a song that I like, it's hard not just belting out with it. Especially if it had either Hellfire, because you said it had some Disney songs. If it had Hellfire, I'm fucked.
Snow said the same thing. He's like, hell, if there's Hellfire, I'm so screwed.
Yeah, Hellfire would fuck me over, and the other one, it's not a Disney song, but it is one of the best villain songs from fucking anything. Do you guys remember In the Dark of the Night?
Nope.
Offhand, no.
It's a song from Anastasia. It's the song that Rasputin sings. So it's the "Come, my minions, fly for your master. Let your
That's not
evil
Disney.
shine." Yeah, it's not Disney. It's fuck. Who made? Was it Warner Brothers made
All right, off to IMDb.
Yeah,
Anastasia?
I didn't watch Anastasia, so that would be why I didn't recognize the song.
I know what movie you're talking about. I just don't remember.
Frosted Glass says it was Don Bluth.
97.
I know it was a Don Bluth, but I can't remember which company he was working for when he put it out.
Oh, okay.
Let's see here.
But it is one of my favorite Disney-like movies. And like I said,
That was
In
Fox.
the Dark of the Night. It was Fox? Okay.
Yeah.
In the Dark of the Night is one of the best villain songs from fucking anything. Because it just has this very nice basso quality, and it builds beautifully because it starts off with that bum 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 bum.
At any point, does it mention that despite only being 13% of the night?
Wow.
It unfortunately does not.
Damn, bruh.
Hey, did you see?
Also,
Did you see Frosted's comment there, Sanguine?
Let me see. I have the chat open, but I don't think it has continued moving chat since my computer crapped out. So let me reload this shit.
Also, I want to apologize for any ambient noise. I am in the truck. Also, if I cut out, that's, probably signal issues. So I'm on my phone.
Fair enough. If I randomly drop, it's because snow.
That rapper has a lot to answer for.
Yeah, ever since Informers, he's been out of control.
Yeah. It's the only song of his I actually know. I'm sure he had others, but...
Okay. Now that chat's actually loaded in, I can scroll up. And yep, Don Bluth and Fox. And he agrees, great song.
Before that.
Don't worry, Sanguine. You can dance if you want to.
Yeah.
And you can leave your friends behind. If your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, then they're no friends of mine.
I didn't watch a whole lot of Disney as a kid, so I'm not going to know most of these songs unless it was from like The Lion King or The Little Mermaid. That's kind of all I. Those are the two I remember.
And I do like Be Prepared, Frosted Glass, but to me, the order of villain songs, hands down, Hellfire. Because...
Did we lose him?
I think we lost him again.
He's gone forever.
It's
lost
it's drum roll. Dramatic pause.
Frosted is saying, not even the Rescuers Down Under. As appropriate as that would have been for me to watch, being as I live down under, I don't remember. If I saw it, I remember nothing about it.
The only thing I think, if I remember correctly, is Dom DeLuise, and that is it.
See, I didn't even remember that.
If that's even him.
No, I remember that there was a Rescuers Down Under. I remember that was a movie that existed, but that's it. That's all I remember about it.
What was a movie that existed?
The Rescuers Down Under.
I believe it's called Sanguine Having Good Internet.
That would be nice. Though it's not so much me having a bad internet plan as just the weather deciding, fuck you, even though you have good internet, you don't have any internet.
So what he's saying is the weather outside is frightful.
Sadly, I do not have a fireplace, so I can't say the fire is so delightful.
All right, so it wasn't Dom DeLuise, it was John Candy.
Yeah, some fat guy.
Same character, played by a fat guy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think I'm going to be in the distinct minority, but I never liked John Candy as much as a lot of people seem to.
It depends on the movie.
He wasn't horrendous, but he didn't make a movie for me at any point. He was like a great many actors just kind of there.
I
didn't hate him.
I would say, depending on the movie, he could have been a draw for me.
I didn't hate him or anything. It's just, if you wanted to sell me on a movie saying John Candy is in it, isn't going to work. He's like, okay.
Yeah. And that's what I was getting at, that he didn't wow me at any point. It was just kind of, he was there. He was...
Right.
I've told you guys my differentiations of the grades of actors, right?
You have. I can't remember them precisely, but there's sort of like you forget that it's like you can see them in different roles and not realize it's the same person is like the best one. And
Yeah,
you use
that's the
Gary
highest
Oldman, for
echelon.
example.
And Oldman is in that position.
Yes.
Then a good actor is an actor that you can see a bad movie with them in it. But when they're on screen and when they're doing their bit, the movie is good for a period of time.
Right.
And
so that's Raul Julia in Street Fighter.
Yeah, that's Raul Julia in Street Fighter. That's damn it, it was the horrendous slasher that had, what am I blanking on? Not Bill Murray. Who the fuck was it? I'm blanking, and I don't know why. Same actor from Big.
Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Yes. There's a horrendous slasher that had Tom Hanks in it. It's something like
The Burbs?
He knows. Let me figure out what the hell the name of the movie was again. But there's this god-awful slasher where it's a serial killer is murdering women shortly before their wedding and murders their husbands and everyone around them. So the main character is a woman who is engaged.
Thierry is suggesting Bonfire at the Vanities. Is that the one?
That is not. Let me quickly check.
No, it's kind of like Jeremy Irons in Blood Rain for me. Jeremy Irons wasn't terrible. He was just, I don't know, he was slimming it that day. Because Blood Rain was an awful movie.
He Knows You're Alone. That's the name of it. It's okay. He Knows You're Alone. It's a horrendous movie. Everyone you're thinking could be the killer, but not because it's really well done where everyone seems suspicious. No, it's just everyone is off-putting enough that you're positive that even if they aren't this killer, they have like little boys or women in their walls. And then Tom Hanks is in the movie for a moment and he's charming, he's funny, and you're going, okay, I like this character. And it's because it's Tom Hanks. It's a horrible movie, but he does an amazing job at the part that he was supposed to play.
Yeah, that's where I'd put Tom Hanks too. If you told me that Tom Hanks was in a movie, I'd think, okay, cool. But that wouldn't on its own be enough to make me rush out to see it.
Yeah. It just tells you that even if it isn't a great movie, there'll at least be a couple scenes that you're going, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry for cutting you off, Eve.
No, I was going to say, Terry, anything to make you... The only thing it could make you rush out of your house to go anywhere would be like if they set your house on fire, and even then you'd probably stop and think about it.
No, but when I say rush out and see it, I mean watch it on YouTube. Like pay money to get a digital copy.
Yeah, I'm just giving you shit, dude.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, nothing would make me run out to the theater or the cinema. That doesn't happen. But if I found an interesting movie, I would rush to, YouTube and pay a couple bucks to rent the movie. Like, that's happened.
Now
there was a movie. I always forget the specific number, but the evil hotel room. It's
1408.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I read about that on TV Tropes, and I was like, that sounds fucking amazing. And so I went to YouTube and found it and watched it, and it's like that was enough of a selling. Not John Cusack, but one of the spoilers that I read on the TV Tropes page was like, oh my god, I need to see this movie. So I can be like, highly enthusiastic about watching a movie.
And Frosted Glass asks, but is it as bad as the D&D warning movie where Tom Hanks wants to jump off a building because he has spells? And all I can say about he knows when you're alone is, like I said, even though you know that not everyone is the killer, you're positive that they've been killing someone, with the exception of Tom Hanks. That includes the woman who is the main character, who's meant to be this rather innocent woman. You're going, okay, how many children has she skinned alive?
They're creepy enough that if you ask her, what's your body count, you're expecting a kill count, not who she's fucked.
Yeah. You're expecting the number of children that she has drowned and watched their eyes as they've gone milky.
I mean, this does sound like a movie that I wouldn't pay for it, but if I could find a free copy online, I'd probably watch it.
Oh, it is horrendous and the thing is that it is horrendous in every conceivable way. It isn't just that the acting's bad throughout most of the movie. It is. It isn't just that the script is bad. It is. It isn't just that everyone makes you feel deeply uncomfortable, which they do. It's also that it is tremendously boring. They did a slasher film. A flasher film would be an entirely different sort of film.
Yeah, that's the wrong genre there, man.
They did a slasher film.
I can go to the hub and see that one.
Yeah. They did a slasher film where the entire time you're thinking, can someone please fucking die? And even when someone is being brutally murdered, you're like, okay, is it over yet? God.
It sounds like
We're
it's
10
about
minutes
as good as The Room.
No, The Room is funny.
Not intentionally.
Not intentionally, but it is. This one's just interminably painful.
Cat cam. Oh, no, yeah, now we want to go away? Okay, I see how it is.
Yeah, I'm well aware of the grim fairy tale where the witch is trying to cook the kid. In fact, there's a bunch of
I was going to say, isn't that
different
all of
ones.
them?
There's a bunch of different ones where that happens, but I believe he's referring to Hansel and Gretel.
That's probably the most famous one.
Yeah, we don't have... We have different definitions of the word masterpiece there, Frosted.
I mean, The Room is very quotable. I mean, for all its failings, it's very quotable.
And also, it told you that Tommy Wiseau has never had sex.
Well, maybe
Unless someone has a vagina in their shoulder.
No,
or belly button.
Maybe one of the conditions of getting her to do the sex scene was, yeah, you're not actually going anywhere near me down there. You just fuck my belly button if you have to, but I'm not letting you anywhere near my crotch.
Which, I do have to say, that is at least a better sex scene than... You guys are all familiar with the movie Excalibur, right?
I've heard of it. I don't know if I've seen it.
I saw it as a very, very young child.
So it is a gloriously over-the-top, in the best possible way, retelling of King Arthur, but it's kind of gritty.
You know, I think I saw the Nostalgia Critics video on it, but I never actually saw the movie.
It does it fairly well, but the creepiest thing that you can possibly find out about the movie is that you guys know the general story about King Arthur, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know generalities, sure.
Do you know how Arthur Pendragon came to be? How he was born, or how he was conceived, rather?
No, I know he got into a fight with the Black Knight, who always triumphs, and then he cut off his arms and legs.
So the way that
Liam Neeson's in
Arthur
that.
Pendragon. The way that Arthur Pendragon came to be was Uther Pendragon, his father, was waging war against another petty king at the time, who had an absolutely beautiful wife that Uther desperately wanted to fuck. So he got Merlin to disguise him as the other petty king, went and fucked his wife behind his back, and in the movie, the disguise fails partway through the fucking.
Oh, God.
So it goes from a somewhat intense love scene of...
Love, in very big quotation marks.
Yeah.
Well, originally, it was a love scene where the woman thinks that she's having sex with her husband, who's away at war. And has been able to return. And then it turns out that, no, it's actually Uther Pendragon. And it gets kind of bit fucked.
Does the woman chase the man while Yakety Sax is playing?
No, not at all.
That would have been better.
But, so that entire scene's filmed, and then the birthing of Arthur Pendragon is filmed, also known as King Arthur. And so the director was in charge of all these decisions and all the setups for the shots. So, do you know who they cast as Igraine, the woman that Uther Pendragon forces himself on in disguise?
Roseanne Barr.
No. They cast the director's daughter.
Oh, that's questionable.
So the director is filming his daughter as Igraine getting by Uther Pendragon, and then is filming his daughter again, which they've did a rather cool thing because they wanted to get the scene of Igraine giving birth to Arthur, but his daughter wasn't actually pregnant, so they set up this special, like, magician's table, almost, where it was a pregnant woman's body, and then it was his daughter, like, from the tits up, it was his daughter. And then from just below the tits down, it was a pregnant woman.
That's, yeah. That director has issues, I'm just going to say.
Yeah, that was the creepy part about that entire fucking thing. Was just the, what the hell is going on in this family? That director just filmed his daughter.
He's like, hey, it's the 80s.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm told that incest porn is pretty popular for whatever reason.
Yeah, it is just very strange because this wasn't. If you were trying to market this as a form of incest porn, it isn't just incest porn. It is incest cuckold porn.
Yeah, no, whatever it is, there's a fetish. Someone who has a fetish for it somewhere out there.
Sadly, that
what-
is accurate.
Yeah, that's it. This has Helen Mirren in it. It's got Liam Neeson in it. And Patrick Stewart.
Yeah. And a young Helen Mirren.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad it's the young one.
Well, it's from 1981, so.
Yeah. That just...
Let's get
Since we were
future
talking
Helen
about
Mirren in
incest-
this, bitch.
since we were talking about incest porn, I would rather the young Helen Mirren be involved, not the older one.
But yeah, it was just a very... The movie was a good movie, but once you find that out, every time that you watch that beginning of the movie, you're just uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and there's no way to not be uncomfortable.
Well, unless you're one of those people who's into it.
Yeah, and then you're still uncomfortable because your pants are getting a bit too tight. But the movie was, like I said, rather well done throughout. There's also some strange love scenes later on, and a lot of naked Lancelot.
Well, I mean,
it was the 80s. What are you going to do?
If you're going to give the guy something to look at, I suppose you've got to give the girl something too.
And then naked Lancelot ends up impaling himself.
Impaling with what?
Thankfully, a sword.
Okay.
Because it goes from
there for a second.
It goes from the birth of, or from the conception of King Arthur to the fall of King Arthur. So it goes through the betrayal of Lancelot and the last battle with Mordred.
I remember there was a video game. I think it was called Blazing Dragons, something like that. And yeah, I mean, it was very broadly based on King Arthur, and no, you just reminded me of Sir Lancelot. He was in that game, and like he was just a complete idiot.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of the parts that they did rather well in Excalibur. They made Lancelot capable, and they had Arthur be capable, and they did the scene of... So, in the Arthurian legend, at least in one of the iterations of the Arthurian legend, because there's a bunch of different versions that are now combined together in interesting ways.
The voices of Terry Jones and Cheech Marin.
Okay.
I mean, I do like Terry Jones.
In one of the stories, King Arthur ends up shattering Excalibur. Because Excalibur would guarantee victory in a fight effectively. But it would only continue to do so if the fight was just. And
he doesn't need Excalibur. He's got the holy hand grenade. He just has to learn how to count to 3.
Nice. But in one iteration of the tale, when he first meets Lancelot, he sunders Excalibur, and then it's repaired by the Lady of the Lake. But they did that scene rather well, where they do show Arthur is a capable fighter, at least in the terms of the fighters in the movie. And he's getting bested by Lancelot, and then he draws Excalibur and wins, but the sword shatters in the process. And it was a well-done element of that.
Cool.
So I recommend seeing Excalibur, not just for the creepiness of the beginning, but for the actual quality of the rest of it.
It's Assassin in chat is saying 1, 2, 5, and funnily enough, in the Holy Grail video game, you actually have to take into account that Arthur can't count, because when you get to the rabbit, you actually have to throw the hand grenade, and if you throw it before 3, you blow yourself up. So it goes 1, 2, 5, 3, and so if you throw it when you're expecting 3, he says 5, and you blow yourself up. You actually do have to wait for him to get it wrong and then correct himself.
Nice.
That was actually a really good game. Well, I mean, it was good at reflecting the movie. It was very accurate to the movie, that game.
That's like, of course, a classic text-based video game that was fantastic.
It was point and click. It wasn't text-based.
Oh, I'm saying, though, another video game from around the same time that was a fantastic text-based video game was the Hitchhiker's Guide video game.
That one was interesting because
It fucking argued with you every time that you tried to close it.
I struggle to say it was good because there were a lot of like really terrible design decisions in there. But if you had the solution, it was actually a very clever game. It's just I don't think anyone could solve it legitimately. That was just
You had to
absurd.
trial and error it a lot. And it was very much a game where if there was an item that you could take the fucker.
Well, actually, one of the things that was really interesting about that game is right near the end is you need a specific tool to do some task, and which tool you need changes, like from playthrough to playthrough, and you have to go and see a psychic who predicts what tool you will need. If you don't do that, it will make sure it picks the one that you don't have.
Yep.
And that is like pointlessly evil, but hilarious.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
You know, she just immediately mutes.
Well, I'm trying to keep the ambient noise down because it's a really rough patch.
No, it just seemed funny. It's just like, welcome back. Hi, mute.
But yeah, I miss some of the bullshit of old games.
There was
There's
a
certain-
lot of really clever traps that they would set for you in those text-based games.
Yeah. There was a lot of really clever traps. There were a lot of really clever ways of getting through problems. There was also the absolute insanity of, okay, why the fuck am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And why did it work? What the fuck?
One of my favorite traps was in one of the Zork games. I forget which one, but you can find a potion that lets you see in the dark, and so you think, great. One of the big recurring problems with Zork is that you got to keep your lantern lit all the time, and then if you drink the potion, you quickly discover the problem with the dark is not just that you can't see; it's the grooves, and so you can see yourself getting killed by a grue.
Yep.
It's like completely useless item, but it makes you think, well, now I don't need a torch.
Mm-hmm. And there's, like I said, some things are just insane video game logic from time to
Of
time.
course.
And other things in those old point and click and text adventures, you're going, okay, yeah, this makes perfect fucking sense why I'm doing this. And it feels good when you're able to solve a problem and you're looking at it and you're going, this all makes sense.
One of my favorite like clever solutions was in was it Colossal Cave Adventure, where it's like you type in kill dragon, it says, what, with your bare hands, and you say yes, and it says you killed the dragon.
Nice.
Nice.
Like if you try and kill it with an actual weapon, you just die. Like if you type kill dragon with sword, it kills you. But you just type kill dragon and it goes, what, with your bare hands? You say yes, and it dies.
You have to Beowulf that bitch.
And there was another one with this was in the first Zork game. There's a Cyclops where you can kill it normally, or you can just say Odysseus, and he like freaks out and runs away.
Nice.
I believe Ulysses also works. Like you can type either name for the character, but I always typed Odysseus.
Mm-hmm. And at least you don't pronounce it in the way that causes me extreme pain since I heard one person say it. Because even though they claim that it's a valid way, no, fuck you, it isn't. Have you ever heard anyone refer to Odysseus as Odysseus?
Oh God, why would you say that? Why would anyone pronounce it that way?
I every time we mention this, it always brings up going back to rental, like renting movies and games and shit. there was a Blockbuster commercial, and this is, I think it was 94 or 95. I don't know. I was riding the bus to school, and I overheard. It was when the Replacement Killers came out with Chow Yun-fat and Myra Sorvino.
Mm-hmm.
And the part that really sticks with me is that, like, they're talking about, oh, new releases. We have this one with this person, and this one with this person, and the Replacement Killers with Chow Yun-fat and Myra Sorvino.
Oh God!
And I'm like,
ouch!
What the shit? Like, I'm like, that is not even close to how you even pronounce her name.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I can understand if like you've never heard it pronounced, so you're kind of guessing. But some things you should be able to figure out. I don't think Sorvino is that difficult to figure out.
Well, especially like her dad's Paul Sorvino. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like he's a really well-known actor too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should be able to figure it out, but I can understand where if you've only ever seen it written down, you may not know the exact pronunciation, and you kind of just have to guess, and then it happens.
There's certain words that I'll make that exception for. There's other words that if I hear someone mispronounce and they aren't ESL, I'm going, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah. Like I've heard some people pronounce mirror as mir, and it's like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
It actually took me a long time to figure out that Craig was actually an American trying to say Craig. Like, I thought there was an actual name, Cregg. It's like, what the fuck? Who names their kid Craig? But no, they were trying to say Craig. They just had a weird accent.
Mm. And I do love how people are bringing up their old point and click and puzzle game memories. It's kind of like one game series that people either fucking love or they goddamn hate with a burning passion. Myst.
That is one I never actually played. I played a ton of the adventure games. I missed Myst.
So Myst was definitely, in terms of puzzle games, Myst was the FromSoft of puzzle games.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I understand of it, because I talked to a friend of mine who had played it, and I think that was when the what was it, the Philips like TV gaming thing that they were trying to pull?
I think so.
It's when they had that, because that was one of the games that they were trying to sell with it. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine's like, "Oh yeah, I had that on my computer for a while," and I'm like, "Oh, the puzzles seemed kind of interesting." Even though I'm horrible at puzzle games, I absolutely love them.
Yeah, I'm about the same. I'm not great at puzzle games, but they are fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Myst was, you really had to take notes throughout the entire game.
Yeah, the CDI, that's what it was.
Because you would be trying to remember, okay, how many times did I activate this one lever? Because if you activate this one lever a specific number of times, then congratulations, you've solved the puzzle. Any other number of times, other than activating it until you've rolled back over into the initial set, and you fucked yourself.
That sounds tiresome. I don't think I would enjoy that all that much.
But the thing was that every time that you actually solved a puzzle in the game, it was that fuck yes feeling of accomplishment. Because
I can imagine it would be.
Yeah, you know that you were actually working for it, and you know that you actually had to think through it. It wasn't just something that you brute forced or you guessed at. You had to actually understand what you were doing to activate the right thing at the right time, the right number of times.
All the information you needed in Myst was there. It's just you had to look for it, and you had to, like you said, take notes.
Yep. And you had to pay attention to small changes quite often, where you walked into this room and this one aspect was in this position and that color. And then you go and you dick around with something and you go back to that room and now the position's slightly different. Not grossly different, just slightly different. And the colors changed. And if you didn't realize that, you'd be going, oh, nothing changed. And then you'd continue trying to figure out something, not realizing that, oh, no, something's changed. And it's telling you that you're on the right path.
Mm-hmm. I think the best note-taking device is gamefaqs.com. You just go there, and it's already filled in with all the notes you need. It's perfect.
And another game series that I enjoyed when I was younger, that was also something that you had to really pay attention to, was the Journeyman Project games.
Sorry, traffic just drowned you out. What game was it?
The Journeyman Project games.
Sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't think I remember it.
So, most of them, if not all of them, were FMV, point-and-click games.
I do like FMV.
Say again?
I do like FMV.
Yep, and probably the easiest to get into is the third one. Though, if you want to get the full story...
Only the first one seems to be on Steam.
Yeah, all on GOG, though.
Oh, okay.
So, the third one is probably the easiest to get into. It's a FMV, but also puzzle game.
And there's 4 of them.
There's 4 Journeyman Project games?
Yeah. There's the main one, 2, 3, well, there's 5. Journeyman Project 2, Buried in Time, Journeyman Project Pegasus Prime, Journeyman Project 3, Legacy of Time, and Journeyman Project 4, Resurrection.
Okay. So yeah, Journeyman Project 3 is the one that I remember playing the most. And the premise was that you had this talking suit that could help you travel between different timelines. And there was someone that you were chasing that had been fucking with time. You're trying to set things right and capture them. But because they also have the ability to hop between different time periods, you have to change up your time period in order to solve puzzles in each of them, in order to get closer to the person.
So are they all time travel related, or just the third one?
All of them are time travel related.
Okay, cool.
And the first one, the reason why it's difficult to start with the first one is if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to immediately die.
Oh, okay.
Because you'll start out the game and you'll be going, okay, so let me look around, let me do this. Okay, now I'll progress the main story. Why is this door not opening? And the station just blew up.
Oops.
Huh.
Whoopsie.
Okay, let me start this over again.
I was waiting for that, Johnny.
Because in the game, as it's starting up, it tells you that there's something going on and that the station is rigged to explode in about 15 minutes.
So that's sort of like the beginning of Hitchhiker's Guide, where you've got to get out of the house within a certain number of turns, otherwise it gets demolished with you in it.
Yep. So, with that game, if you don't get out fast enough, the station's destroyed and you're just fucked. Whereas 3 doesn't have that hard time limit.
Okay.
You can still fuck things up here and there, but it doesn't have that quite as drastic of a welcome to the game. Oh, you already fucked up. Sucks to suck now, doesn't it?
Is there a way to render the game unwinnable without dying, or like if you fuck up, are you dead?
In Journeyman Project 3, there's ways of dying, and then there's ways of fucking up that will make it so that you have to do more work in order to fix it.
But you're never completely out of the game unless you're dead.
But you don't hard or soft lock yourself, no.
Okay, because there's lots of games like going back to like King's Quest where you can do something completely inadvertently killing you, like ruining your prospects of winning, but not actually ending the game. So you just wander around wondering why the fuck you can't make any progress. And
yeah, you just bumble around not knowing that you already made it so that you lost.
Like if you eat the pie.
That was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That Frosted brought up in chat, throwing the pie at the Yeti. If you eat the pie, and the game makes sure to tell you that you're hungry, so you're more likely to eat it. Yeah, if you eat the pie, then you just die when you get to the Yeti. But that could be, hours away. You get to the Yeti and you have no idea because nothing in your inventory works, and you've got no reason to think, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that pie. Like, no one is going to make that conclusion.
Yeah, I got to the Yeti. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do to this thing? And then I'm just like, well, I'll just try the pie. I tried I tried everything else, and it's like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah,
one
with
of my favorite ones in King's Quest was if you don't save a rat in the desert, you die because the rat remembers that you saved it and bites through the rope that's like that they've tied you up with. If you don't think to throw a boot at a random cat chasing a mouse in the middle of the desert, you die. Those games were so busted.
Yeah, the thing that was kind of cool about Journeyman Project 3, though, was, like I said, you're hopping between different times, and you're hopping between 3 main locations and 3 main times.
Okay.
Atlantis, Shangri-La, and El Dorado.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool because you'll find things that you need in order to solve a puzzle in Atlantis in Shangri-La or in El Dorado.
That's pretty cool.
And you'll have to grab it and then take it over to the proper place. And then you'll find shit that helps you solve a problem in whatever area you were in just before that.
I think Johnny might have just bought this game, actually, but have you played 428 Shibuya Scramble?
I have not.
That's really cool because you've got 5 characters and they've kind of just all got their own stories, but decisions you make with one character will influence the events in other characters' stories. And so the whole game is making the right decisions with each character so that all of them get to the end of the chapter.
Nice.
And like the easiest example is like the one that I always remember is there's one guy who's being chased and you've got the decision, do you make him run across the road or around the corner? If you run across the road, you cause a car crash, and that car crash stops one of the other characters from getting where they need to be in time. And so that's the sort of like interconnectedness. Like they influence each other well, they do eventually meet up in person, but like without directly interacting with each other, they still influence each other's stories quite a bit, which is like really cool to see how everything sort of unfolds.
Yeah, that's a game I'll probably have to check out. If you could shoot me that in a DM at some point, so I could have the name to reference when I'm looking for it.
Twitter or Discord DMs?
Either one.
Okay.
I'll be able to check either.
How do y'all feel about horror-based point-and-click adventures?
They can be done well, they can be done really poorly.
Have you ever played 5 Days a Stranger?
Yes.
Say again?
No.
5 Days a Stranger. Terry knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've played that. I don't remember much from it, but I've definitely played it. The name's familiar. And is that the one Yahtzee was involved
Yes,
with?
it's the one
Yeah.
Yahtzee made. It's a story about 5 people who get trapped in a house together, from various walks of life and various reasons of needing to be there. The character you play as is a thief named Trilby, who got wind that this particular house had just, been, the owner had just passed away, and he's like, this is ripe for the pickings. Well, there are some people there that were there for the funeral and blah, blah, blah. But everybody figures out pretty quickly once they enter the house grounds, they can't leave.
Mm-hmm.
Like, windows are sealed, the walls are too high to climb, and something is keeping them there. And then something starts trying to kill them off one by one. And it's pretty intense and leads into like a series that I don't really want to spoil if anybody wants to play it, but because the first one's called 5 Days a Stranger, the next one's called 7 Days a Skeptic, and then the last one is called 6 Days a Sacrifice.
Okay.
And it is intense. It is really well written as far as a horror game goes, but it's a point-and-click adventure on top of it, and it was because you either have to go very serious with a point-and-click adventure game, or you have to be downright silly. And
yeah,
this one chose the more very serious route.
They made a point-and-click adventure for I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Right.
That was a good game, actually. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, very much so.
I'm worried how true to form they kept that.
I'm trying to remember. I think most of the nastier bits have been taken out, but
yeah, that was the part that I'm going, oh god, that game could be really fucked.
I think
because do all of you know the story of it?
Yeah, the tone is still like the game is still pretty fucked up, but I don't think they've got the guy raping the girl or anything like that.
Until they're both mind broken. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it goes that hard, but no, there's like allusions to stuff. It's not quite as explicit as the story is.
Okay, you guys do all know the story. I know Terry does from what he said, but do the rest of you know how fucked up that story is?
Which one is this?
I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
No.
So, Terry, do you want to give the summary or shall I?
You'll probably give a better one than I will because I haven't read the story in quite a long time, so I'll let you do it.
So, massive spoiler warnings for a book that has been out for fucking ages, and if you haven't read it already, I guess click to something else for a few moments, or just deal with the fact that you're having something that is known and cultured overtly spoiled for you. So, there has been successful AI creation. It has taken over. It has kept a handful of people alive in order to torture them because of what it viewed humans put it through. So it blames them, and I think all of them were involved in the making of it to begin with. So it devises a series of different tortures for each of the people that it's keeping alive for all time. For instance, the one that Terry mentioned that is one of the more messed up ones is it was a gay guy that was kept conscious but sectioned off into the back part of himself effectively, as he was then forced to do horrendous things to one of the other humans, a female, for all time. This resulted in the gay man's mind breaking, as well as the woman's mind breaking. And there's a series of other absolutely fucked up tortures. The main character in the book realizes what's going on, where they are, and functionally sacrifices himself for everyone else by going from person to person, killing off the other four, freeing them of their torment.
From memory, there was something preventing them from killing themselves, but the computer had neglected to close the loophole of killing each other. So
yep. And then the computer, realizing that a human had just spoiled its retribution as it saw it, it then took to personally, eternally torturing the one last human. And it removed his mouth so that he couldn't scream, but due to the horrendous torture, he was constantly trying to.
Yeah. And Frosty says, so it was a happy ending. Oh, yeah. Very.
Yeah.
You just tuck me in tonight.
And yes, the stream should be named now, I Have No Internet, and I Must Stream.
That is a good name.
I might end up stealing that for tomorrow.
Have you guys ever seen? Well, it came out a few years ago. Upgrade.
Don't think so.
Let me quickly check. The name sounds familiar, but
it's I mean, there's a few actors that I don't recognize in there, but it's another one of those AI, like, it starts off as kind of like this this guy's wife gets killed, and he ends up having this chip implanted to his neck because he's paralyzed in the attack. And so this guy who he restored a car for him, and he was working on this AI, and so he's like, yeah, this thing can let you do anything. Yeah, pretty much. It's the next step of an evolution. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty much from there. Like, it starts off with once he has the chip implanted, he's like, yeah, this thing's talking to me. What the hell's going on? And because it's like synced up to his nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of starts off as this like revenge story. And then, like, he's trying to interrogate these people who were like, they killed his wife. So he finds out who they are, and he goes after them. And it kind of starts off as this like kind of buddy, like buddy cop type thing.
Mm-hmm.
and it slowly evolves into a completely different type of story.
Nice.
To a typical end. Like, I saw the end coming, but they left it kind of open-ended. So it's like who you think is involved in the whole thing, it keeps you pointing at different people, and then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that's what's going on here.
And what did you say the name was again?
Upgrade.
Upgrade. Okay.
Yeah, it's not bad, but there are holes, or like
does it do the ending where they're like, but what else could have happened, and then they just give you a complaint? that would have
been awesome.
But here's how it really happened.
Yeah.
Was it 1 + 2 + 2 + 1? Or was it 1 + 1 + 2 + 1? Or was it 1 + 2 + 1 + 2 + 1? And you guys, just to make sure I'm not the only person that came from a family that was dorky enough to do this, you guys went through with a whiteboard and noted every gunshot, right?
For what?
Clue.
Oh.
Was it
no
1 + 2 + 1 + 1?
I think I only saw the movie like once, and I was like pretty young, so I wouldn't have thought to do that. I'm sure if I watched it now, I would then go rewatch it and keep track of that, just to see if I could catch them out, kind of thing, and make sure everything does in fact line up correctly. But I don't know. I'm not in a rush to watch that movie again.
Yeah.
Yeah, for my family, like I said, it was one of the movies that we would watch fairly frequently as a family. So we went through one of the times with a whiteboard and noted every gunshot when it happened to see if we could get the correct number of gunshots. Then we also went through and noted who was missing in every scene.
Okay, you're taking it way more seriously than I ever would have.
To make sure that there was no
I remember
mistake.
I remember watching it with my mom and her friend, and whenever like the singing telegram part came on,
I am your singing telegram. Bam!
I laughed my ass off every time. And they're just like, what is wrong with you? And like, I have no idea why that was so funny, but yeah, for some reason, some random messenger girl being shot was hilarious to me.
You know, one movie that kind of disappointed me was the Sixth Sense, because I mean, I already knew the spoiler before I watched it, but then I said, like, you see him die. It's like, okay, so it's not really that hidden that he's dead the whole time. He's like, you see him get killed. It's like, okay, It's not nearly as cool as I had gone in hoping for.
Everyone just assumed that he didn't actually die. He just was injured. And then, oh my god!
I think because I knew the big reveal before I sat down and watched it, it's like, oh, okay, so he died right there. Okay.
Yep.
Whereas if I had gone in blind, maybe I would have made the same assumption that he was only injured. But yeah, no, that I was disappointed with that because it seemed so blatant that he was dead. In hindsight, I suppose.
There's so many movies that when you actually watch them and you're paying attention throughout, their twists aren't really that big of a twist.
Yeah.
Like, my friends got pissed off at me in college when I hadn't seen The Unusual Suspects
Right.
by that point. And I had avoided hearing much about it. So I knew that a lot of people were surprised about it, but they didn't tell me why. And then we started watching it. They knew that it was my first time, and they were going, "Oh, I'm excited to see what you think." And we get like maybe 10 minutes into the movie, and I'm just sitting there going, "So the retarded guy, he's actually the brains behind everything, right?"
Hmm.
And they just all get pissed off at me because I called the goddamn ending.
I actually had that happen with Shrek, because my girlfriend at the time was like, no, you've got to watch it. It's great. And so I was saying, like, I'm not saying this is how the movie ends, but if I was making this movie, instead of turning into a human, instead of Shrek turning into a human, the girl should turn into an ogre because that would be funnier. And she's like, well, is there any point in even watching the rest of the movie? He's like, well, you can still watch it. I don't mind. I'm just saying, I kind of just did, this is like the obvious way to end this movie and have it be like a joke because it's a comedy. And it's like she was upset.
It's kind of like the number of times that I've been playing a game and I've just got this sense of this fucker's going to betray me, and they never allow you to just kill them. I want there to be a game where they have it set up so that it can go one of two ways. Either, the person that is going to betray you betrays you because you never caught on, or you fucking murk them partway through and that betrayal just never happens.
Lance Vance from Grand Theft
So
Auto Vice City.
There's a
kind of
there's
does
a
it.
video of on YouTube of a guy does the epic NPC man. Have you guys ever seen that one?
No.
Where he
I don't
plays
believe
like
I
the NPCs in like MMO games and stuff like that. He makes all these video game tropes. Well, one of them he has is like the first time you play an adventure game, right? Like, so it's like a Skyrim type thing, and he starts out in this prison, and he goes through and he kills a rat, and then he kills
Oh,
this,
yes, I have seen this
deformed
one.
creature, and then he goes and he's like, goes to the first village. He's like, my first village, and he runs up to the village, and he's like, and they're like, oh, have you seen our pet rat? And then he's like, fuck, because it's like an exact photo of the rat that he killed in the dungeon. And then he tries to tell him, he's like, I'm sorry,
Now
the rat's
that
dead, blah,
you've
blah, blah.
described it, I have seen it.
He goes, he's like, the rat's dead, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, oh, well, if you see my son who I sent out looking for him, please tell him he can come home. It's like, what's your son look like? Oh, shit. And so, like, the ghoul-looking dude that he killed as well.
He looks like me. He's wearing similar robes, but he's been out for a while, so his robes are probably kind of torn and dingy. And he had a skin condition, so his skin didn't look very nice, and it was the zombie.
Yeah, it was the ghoul that he thought it was. Thought it was a ghoul. So, like, he goes back and plays the game again and doesn't kill both of them. He tells the rat to go home and tells the dude that the rat's on his way home. So he gets to the village, and the village is on fire. And he's like, what happened? And he's like, it was the rat. He turned on us, and he's become the evil villain of the story. Mm-hmm. So it was like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So the entire epic quest is about convincing people that, like that they're worthwhile. So like when they're worth, and they figure out that they're like, worthwhile or whatever, their health bar disappears and they're no longer a threat. It's great.
Nice.
Well, that's like, I think my second playthrough for Vice City.
Mm-hmm.
After you find out that Lance Vance turns on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got to the point where you're supposed to drive across town, pick him up, and then race him to the hospital. before he bleeds out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to the point where I was like, well, I'm going to fail this the first time because I'm going to stop just short of my stop marker, and that fucker's going to bleed out.
But in Shadowrun, I mean, it's not quite the same because it's an optional party member, but you can hire Shadowrunners in the game. And at one point, one of them does betray you, but you can just you can just shoot him in the head and kill him before you get to that point if you really want to. Or you can just not hire him. Like, that's also an option. So it's not quite as, impactful, but yeah, if you like, I don't trust this guy, you can just put a bullet in his head and you can't hire him ever again. But
kind of reminds me of the OG Baldur's Gate, where you come across those two obviously evil. One of them's like an evil wizard, the other's an evil fighter or something like that. Yep, and they're in the fucking woods, and then you can recruit them to your party, and at the time you probably do it just because you need the strength in numbers, but you look at it the whole time going, I don't know if I can keep these psychos around because they're kind of nuts. And eventually they'll get, if you do enough good things, they'll get upset with you and leave anyway.
Yeah,
but
it's the same if you do enough evil things, the good party members will get upset and leave.
Yeah. I do also like...
Everyone's with you no matter what.
I do like there were a couple different games that did interesting things. So one of them is, of course, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. The end, you could just have him die of old age. Fuck yes, that's awesome.
There's another game that did that actually. I think it's called like The Witch's House or something like that. I forget the exact name of it. But yeah, if you just do nothing, if you just put the controller down and wait for about 90 minutes, you'll get an ending. And the reason is the final boss is currently bleeding to death or only being kept alive with magic, but the magic is like wearing out. So you can just wait and eventually they'll die. You won't get a very good ending. You'll just get a boring, I guess that's it. But you can win the game that way.
The Witch's House is kind of fucked.
And I'm trying to remember what the classic game was. Or it's not really a classic, but it's from, I want to say, the late 90s. And the big bad was immediately outside your starting village in that game.
Okay.
And there was a way that you could piss off the big bad, so he starts trying to attack you and drag him back into the town before he's really powered up.
I think Fable had that in it at some point or something like that. I forget. Maybe it wasn't Fable, but yeah, no, I remember the game that you took.
Yeah, and you could get the town's. You could get the town's guards to kill the big bad.
Dr. Funkenstein is saying 2 worlds.
Yes, I believe that is it.
But yeah, no, I remember the event. I couldn't remember the game.
Yep, and you could get him to be dragged back into the starting town. The guards and the villagers just fucking murder him.
Now,
it's just okay.
But, Far Cry 4 did the same thing, where you can just wait for him to come back. And then you get the ending. Well, an ending.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because he says, wait right here, I'll be back. And then, like, what you're supposed to do is escape. But if you don't, if you just stay there for, I think it's about half an hour, eventually he comes back. And he's like, okay, let's go do the thing that you came here to do. You scatter your mum's ashes or whatever. And, yeah, the game ends.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty much. I remember.
Oh, and I forgot the best bit. The ending, should I stay or should I go, is playing. And like to call attention to the thing that you just did, which I thought was really good.
Very nice.
Little on the nose. I remember whenever I play, I think it's Might and Magic 7.
Okay.
Where you can choose between like becoming evil or good.
I never actually played Might and Magic. I only played the Heroes line.
But when you get through a good chunk of that. Or like when you go to the first, when you're in the first part, your characters are like extremely weak, and you don't have a lot of there's not a lot of ways to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I usually end up doing, because you have to pick up several things around the island, kind of like a scavenger hunt, and your prize is this castle that's just run down, and it's essentially garbage. And you end up getting it, you repair it, and things go from there. But on this island, I'm like, well, there's got to be an easier way to get at least some money to where you can build up, get some decent weapons. So what I usually end up doing is there's a swarm of dragonflies that are down in the swamp area. I usually run it around there, antagonize them, and then I have them chase me through town to where they're attacking like villagers. And actually one of the villagers, he's like, oh yeah, you can have this magic wand, but if you do, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna want something in return. And if he does, like, it's another like kind of wasteful side mission, but he ends up like taking something, and it ends up it's just being a pain. And so yeah, like if he like you antagonize the swarm, they come through the town, they'll end up killing that guy, and then you can take the wand that actually he has on him. So it's just like, okay, well, I'll just take that. And then you're picking up money from the villagers that are just left for dead. And then you can, get some supplies from there.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which Might and Magic game it was where the plot just went completely fucking insane and then they ran out of time. So the big boss, you flip a switch, I think it is, and you win.
Nice.
Because there was supposed to be a big boss fight. They didn't have time for that. You flip a switch. So it's a really good story right up until it's obvious that, oh, this is when the money ran out.
Oh, yeah, the Swords of Zine.
Tier in chat is saying 4, so it's Might and Magic 4, I believe, is what he means.
Yeah, that's the Swords and Dark Side of Zine.
That kind of reminds me of an original Fallout. You could actually persuade the final boss to kill himself.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
You could point out that his big evil plan was inherently flawed because...
You're all sterile.
Hey, you're trying to make a new species that's able to continue its own existence? How?
Yeah.
You can't have children.
Yeah.
And he just, oh fuck. There's no point anymore.
The first Fallout is like the best. A lot of people like the second one more, but I think the first one's my favorite.
What would be nice is the first Fallout's story with more built up around it. Because the first Fallout, there's more than you can explore because of the time limit. But there isn't as much as any of the later Fallout games. And once you win, that's it.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting having a first Fallout game story that then allows you to continue exploring after and find more shit.
Well, I mean, until they came out with the DLC, didn't that happen in Fallout 3 too? Once you finished, it was just like, okay, yeah, bye, you're dead now.
Oh yeah, in Fallout 3, they killed you at the end. But there was
Yeah.
a lot of shit that you could find before that. And it was a much bigger world. Like I said,
Yeah, for sure.
it was a bigger world than you could explore in one because there was the time limit, but it was still small, which was tech limitations, so I'm not blaming them for that. I'm just saying it'd be cool to see that story, but then more fleshed out world.
Yeah, no, I think that would be good. I I did like Fallout 3. I think because it's like that was my first Fallout game, so it's like I kind of got into the sort of the setting. But then I played the first, and it's like, okay, no, this is better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I played Fallout 4, and it's like, okay, never buy another Bethesda game ever again. I understand now.
I've never been so disappointed in a game rather than like watching. Like I was when they came out with Strangers of Paradise, the Final Fantasy game.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I saw, I think, let's see, the trailer is probably a good 4 minutes long. I knew the ending 30 seconds in.
Ouch.
Nice.
And I'm like, this is a prequel to the start. Like, this is...
Well, yeah, that kind of ruins it.
And I'm like, that's exactly what's going on. And then I played the demo version when I downloaded it, and just the opening sequence alone, I'm like, nope, game's over. Like, I already know exactly what's gonna happen. You're gonna go through all this shit. You're like, oh, I gotta fight this guy. Oh, I gotta fight this guy. And then you turned out that you are the guy. I mean, come on.
That's pretty standard, yeah. That's like a very common plot twist.
Yeah, the way that I tend to think of the Fallout games is kind of in terms of Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah, I don't like those. I tried to like Morrowind and Oblivion, and I just didn't.
See, the reason why I use those is because they have kind of solid analogs between them. So 4 would be Skyrim. Because it's the most simplified version of the game.
5 is fair.
Where it takes out a lot of the shit that made it what it was. It appeals to the masses, but
I'm glad I never played it then. If they made
it feels kind of empty.
If they made it a simplified version of Morrowind or Oblivion, then oh god, no. Like the complexity is the fun. Why would you take that out?
That's what ends up happening, and then you have 3 would be Oblivion, where it was simplified versus Morrowind. But it still had enough that you could kind of sink your teeth in, but then once you find out what came before it, you're going, oh, no. This one's far better.
Yeah.
And then the ones that I would say are the Morrowinds, because Morrowind is probably my favorite Elder Scrolls game due to how much shit you could do in it. And I'm sorry, when you're making a RPG, there needs to be a way that you've just fucked your character. If you can't fuck your character by building them wrong, you aren't really playing a proper RPG. You're playing an RPG with the training wheels on.
You're playing an action game that has customization in your level ups, basically.
Yep. Like I said, you're playing an RPG.
See, I disagree because I don't like
training
sinking
wheels.
90 hours into a game only to realize I have to start over.
Well, I will always check like a character build guide before, like, it's like, okay, what is good and what is bad? Because I'm like Eve, I don't want to get 60 hours in and then have to restart. But also, I do think it's important that the possibility be there, because otherwise your decisions don't have impact. So yeah, I think there should be terrible options for you to fuck up your character, but I also want to avoid making them. Like, so I'll do the research before I start playing.
And I think the way that you can get a happy middle ground when it comes to that is there are absolutely ways of fucking up your character, but there's ways of retooling them.
Yeah, I think if you've got like a respec option where you can just undo all your level ups and then reassign the points once you realize you fucked up. If that's in the game, then that's fine. I'm more than happy to.
Or the way
to
that
go in blind.
Morrowind did it, because Morrowind, there were ways that you could fuck up your character. But you could also always recover from fucking up your character, because all you had to do was start training other skills.
Yeah.
So you could recover from a fucked up character, but you could still fuck up your character.
See, I think the only time it gets really, really problematic is when there's a level cap. Because once you hit the level cap, if you fucked up your character, then there really is no fixing it.
Well, if with the Elder Scrolls games, the way that the level caps worked was the level cap capped your stats.
Yeah. But
but you were still able to learn your skills.
Yeah, but what I mean is like something where like the maximum level is 20. Each time you level up, you gain a skill. If you reach level 20, I mean, you probably won't if you fucked your character up. But like, what there becomes a point where you cannot save the character, you fucked it up, and there's not enough level ups for you to redeem it. That's a problem.
When it's that type of game, then I agree. You should have a respec. And there should be a cost to the respec.
Yeah, of course.
But there should still be a respec. But
absolutely,
like I was saying, with Morrowind, you could fuck up your character. You could realize that you fucked up your character, and then you would have to go after things that are much easier than what you were going after, and train up other skills so that you could unfuck your character. Which, that was what really drew me to Morrowind, because you had this ability of, this character is just horrendously made. I need to completely retool. And you could grind out that retool. It would be a little bit painful, but it was something that you learned from, and it was because you knew how to deal with, or how to do shit now.
Yeah. There was a game I played way back in the day. It was Discworld Mud. So basically like an MMO, but with no graphics. It was all text. And one of the things you had to do at some point was to assign your stats. And I forget the exact numbers, but you could go up to like 23 is the highest and 8 was the lowest. But whatever you set your stats at was permanent. There was no fixing it. And so a lot of people would have to throw away their characters because, that sounds awesome. I'm a thief. I'll give myself 23 dexterity. Oh, wait, now I've got no health and I die like with a single hit kind of thing. Yep. So years into the game, they actually introduced the retro phrenologist who works, because phrenology is like determining your character by the bumps on your head.
Yep.
Well, if you change the bumps on your head, you change the person.
So it was just a mad doc with a hammer.
Yes, exactly right. But every 6 months of like real world time, you could go to the retrophrenologist, he would whack you on the head, and you could move one stat point to a different stat. So if you did fuck up your character, you could very slowly fix it. And I think that was like one of the best things that they could have done, because it was so easy to like make a, because you're going to do it pretty early on because you don't want your stats to be 13 in everything. But it's very easy to get that wrong. So I'm glad they eventually added a way to fix it, because there were a lot of characters that got thrown away because they realized they fucked up the stat distribution.
Oh yeah, and like I said, if you're having an RPG, this is the problem that I had when it came to a lot of the shit that happened in D&D as well. Because to my mind, D&D 3.5, one of the best D&Ds. Because you could fuck up a character. You could fuck up a character horrendously. But
so for my sake, 3.5, is that the one they used in Neverwinter Nights?
yes.
Okay, now I'm on board. Now I know what you're talking about.
So you have, in terms of D&D, you had D&D, D&D A, which is D&D 2. You have D&D 3. You have D&D 3.5, D&D 4, D&D 5. And
I know Baldur's Gate used second edition rules, and I was pretty sure that Neverwinter Nights used third, or 3.5.
yeah, I think they used 3.5. They might have.
I think they used 3.0 because I don't remember certain. I remember certain things being off from 3.5.
Yeah, I was trying to remember whether they did use 3.5 or whether they used 3, and then they had some changes that brought certain things up to 3.5, so it became like a 3.25 almost. But
I don't remember, but yeah, I remembered that Baldur's Gate was second edition, so I presumed that Neverwinter Nights would be third, or 3.5, or apparently some hybrid of the two.
yeah, D&D 4.0 was probably the worst D&D to have ever come out.
Okay.
The way that I refer to D&D 3 or D&D 4.0 is D&D 4.0 is D&D, the MMO, the tabletop.
Okay.
Because think of the sort of things that you would expect to find in a WoW or something like that. You have clearly defined roles that each of those roles is only able to do its enumerated tasks. So a tank is able to tank.
Mm-hmm.
A tank is not going to be able to do ridiculous burst damage. They'll just tank.
Yeah.
A
Not
healer.
to mention the fact that that you could solo so much of that stuff that you shouldn't have been able to solo because D&D isn't typically designed to be a solo experience. But
Yep.
Everything should be a solo experience.
So with
agree to disagree.
or with 4E made everything MMO classes. Rather than you having a massive spell list to choose from for your spellcasters, and then every character was inherently unique because no two wizards will pick exactly the same spell and have exactly the same stats. Now suddenly you had it so that almost every wizard was identical to almost every other wizard.
That's pretty lame.
And your wizards would be crowd control and burst.
See,
You
for
could
me,
not make
the whole point is the customization is like that's the fun, like
The
sitting
freedom,
down
yeah.
and min-maxing so you can make the most ridiculously overpowered character that still complies with all the rules. That's the fun of the game. You're sitting there doing that research and breaking the system apart.
Yeah, being able to come up with a character that fits in the lore and fits the sort of game that you want to play. Because some games, yeah, you'll have a min-max game. Some games you'll have that aren't min-maxed at fucking all. One of my favorite games that I've ever played was a 3.5 peasant campaign. So, a 3.5 peasant campaign means that rather than being heroes, every character was a peasant class. So, we had NPC classes. We had peasants, we had adepts, we had nobles, and shit like that. All of them, to let anyone not familiar with D&D, a house cat can kill several peasants.
Which is rules as written, but not rules as in the spirit of the game.
Yes.
No. Rules as written is what you use.
Rules as written.
I find that to be an increasingly ridiculous proposition the more I've played D&D. You use the rules as written all the time, because if you do, you end up with some absurd things that just don't make any sense.
It doesn't have to make sense. It has to be legally allowed and then break the game.
The way that I tend to like it is when it's a bit of rule of cool. It's a large share of the world. And then when there's something that isn't solved by rule of cool or just the general world that's been established, then going to a rules as written is a decent way of sorting that out.
I don't know.
Frosted is my kind of people. Frosted is my kind of people. Rules lawyering can definitely be fun. Thank you.
I was just thinking...
And a rules lawyer can get the fuck up from my fucking table. I'm damning.
It depends on how the lawyering is done.
Honestly, I for one find humor in the feline overthrowing a village.
Yeah. So
I mean,
you have
humor, yes, but if you're trying to run something serious, like actually have the world be a serious world, if you're trying to run a comedy campaign, go for it. But I find some of those rulings ridiculous in a sense that they wrote a cat to be somebody, to be a fucking wizard's familiar, to be able to actually do stuff in combat, right?
Yep.
But what they didn't take into account was the fact that they also wrote peasants to be just, peasants. You're not supposed to fight peasants. That's not really the way it's written.
Yep.
But,
and what they also didn't take into account is they didn't write all the animals to the same power scaling. So you have a cat can take out a peasant and can do so fairly easily. A rat can take out a cat fairly easily. So you're just going, what the fuck happened to this? Why? Which is why I have the rule of cool followed by rules of the world followed by rule lawyer.
No, see, I'm the other way around. Rules as written. That's one hell of a nasty rat. Just deal with it.
See, you're saying rules as written, but you're really rule of cooling it because you find that the most intriguing and entertaining.
No, I mean, whatever the rules say is what you've got to go with. If the rules had been written to make sense, I would have been saying, yeah, well, I mean, the rat sucks. Tough shit. Like, whatever the rules as written are, do that.
Yeah, like I said, I have that interplay of those three sets, but the Peasant campaign was one of my favorite games because all of our stats sucked dick. Except for maybe one. Each of us had one stat that we were rather good at. Our skills were really low because we're fucking peasants. Except for, again, maybe a couple stats, or maybe a couple skills that we were able to lock down and do fairly well. So, when we were playing that game, it wasn't just, I run in, I hit orc in face with axe until orcs stop moving. It suddenly became, okay, so we found out that the goblins are emanating from this cave system. How the fuck are 4 peasants going to deal with a horde of goblins? Let's go get the woodcutters and a large supply of wood.
Mhm.
Let's also get some of the just lads from the village. We're going to have them dig a pit, and we ended up doing a fucking hole burning on a goblin hold. Just making porous enough defensive structures that the goblins couldn't immediately break out, but they were porous enough that smoke could pour in through the defenses. And then we made massive smoky bonfires. And just had a bunch of villagers fanning the flames towards the fucking mouth of the cave. Until we killed all of them with smoke inhalation.
I mean, whatever works.
Yep. We had another time
Brutal.
where
Effective.
we were journeying down this river in order to find out if it met a larger body of water that we could use to trade, because we were sent out to found a new little section of a kingdom, but then shit had happened that cut us off from the way that we had come. So let's see if this river gets us anywhere near there. We find out that it's full of a bunch of leech people. My peasant, who ended up, we also ran with the boons and bogeys rule table. So on the boons and bogeys rule table, my peasant had an obscene amount of wealth for anyone, not just a peasant. So he was bankrolling everything for the fucking village. We get down there, and I've made my guy the consummate businessman throughout because of his ridiculous wealth. The leech people take out several of the guards that my guy has hired, and he ends up negotiating peace and trade between the village and the leech people. All it takes is he has to let the leech people have a bit of blood from one of the other party members, and then guarantee that all the slaughterhouse blood will get shipped downriver for the leech people.
There you go.
So it was just everything in that game we had to think through. And that was glorious. But 3.5 had that ability of every class in 3.5 you could make ridiculous. You could do amazing things with it. But you could also fuck it up. And if you knew what you were doing, you could make classes that were never supposed to really do something do that better than they had any fucking right to. One of my favorite things to do was make tanky wizards. Because if you know what's... Go ahead, Eve.
I was going to say, I had a buddy who had a monk, who had a drunken master monk who, I think at around the level 11, 12, consistently had anywhere from 28 to 33 AC, depending on the situation, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, if you know how to make your sorcerer, or your wizard, rather, or sorcerer for that matter, and you get the right stats, you can make them obscenely tanky right from the get-go, and you can continue building that. You could do this in 3.5, you could do it in Pathfinder. So, one of the characters that I had not terribly long ago was a Magus, which was effectively a close-quarters wizard. And it's a Pathfinder class. Really cool class. I had built that character to... At the beginning of every fight, he would enter functionally what he called his battle mode. He would just start casting spells on himself that buffed him ridiculously. And then he would start hunting people down as this terrifying, wacky, waving, inflatable arms flailing two-man stabby boy. Because he would activate one spell that gave him much longer arms. He would activate another spell that meant that his body was more flexible than it should be. So his arms were just contorting in ways that they shouldn't. Activate another spell that gave his skin kind of this rocky texture to it. Activated another spell that was just the shield spell to increase his AC. I just was stacking shit on this character. He was faster, and he was goddamn terrifying. But it was because I knew the spells and I knew how to stack them in order to end up with, at like level 3, my Magus was going into fights with like 28 AC.
It's a lot of air conditioning.
And just being able to stab things in weird fucking ways. The character was socially retarded. So the entire time that I was RPing him, anytime that he was talking to someone, if that person was shorter than he was, which most people were since he was like 6'8", he would bend at the waist until he was looking them straight in the eyes. And he wouldn't, like, move his arms or hold his arms in a specific way. So he would bend at the waist and his arms would just be hanging straight down from the sockets as he's trying to make eye contact with each person that he's talking to. And he's this 6'8" demon-looking motherfucker.
You met Reaper's character?
Frosted in chat says, an invincible retard. What could go wrong?
Exactly. It was amazing.
Hey, you
the thing
guys.
was, he was a genius. He was just socially retarded. So he'd be doing that. But then, hey, we need to make this. I already made it. Here it is. Hey, we need to come up with a plan. Here's my entire volume on the plan.
I've heard a lot of stories about bards with kind of maxed out charisma stats.
Yep.
And I've heard my friend tell a story about he has a bard that whenever he plays it, it just pisses my other friend off because the stat that he has for charisma doesn't have a high roll. So like whenever he I think from what he was, from what I read from him, they were trying to rescue someone from I think your typical bandit, kidnapping someone, and he ended up sleeping with the bandit leader.
Yep.
And it's like it was like by the end of the thing, he's just like, you are not playing this character ever again.
Nice. That's like one of the things that I've joked around with a bunch of people about is at the origin of every sorceress bloodline, there has to be some insane bastard by the name of like Urgosh Dragonfucker. Or like Theron Flamecock, something along those lines. Because in order for there to be a sorceress bloodline, someone has fucked an elemental or a dragon or one of like 4 other things. All of them ridiculous monsters. So every sorcerer has someone in their family. And I want at some point for there to be a campaign that is not one of the ERP campaigns or whatever the fuck. But I just want it to be the premise is every single character is setting out and they want to found a sorceress bloodline. Just because it would be hilarious to be the Urgosh dragon fucker, Theron
Yeah.
Flamecock, whatever the fuck someone else's name is. Just each of them has to earn a name that anyone else would be slightly embarrassed to have to say, yes, I'm actually one of the descendants of Urgosh dragon fucker. I'm sorry, what was that? I'm one of the descendants of Urgosh. Which Urgosh? Dragon fucker. Did you say dragon fucker? Yes. Yeah, it's just one of those things that in the rules and in the lore, that's how they start. And you know that's how someone earns a surname. This is the Middle Ages. There's only going to be a handful of dragon fuckers running around. There's only going to be a handful of burnt cocks or whatever the fuck else. You would have these people, they would be known, and some people would respect... Yeah, some people would respect them because, yes, they founded a very proud sorceress bloodline. Other people would be going, they're just a freak that wanted to get their rocks off with something interesting.
Isn't that just how it goes?
Yeah. Like, you know, if we were still under the tradition of earned names, the moment that we do actually interact with a life form other than human, there would be, like, Bob Alien Bugger or whatever the fuck. It would be someone would earn their name by being the first person to screw that alien species. And they might get one of the nice names like, oh yes, that's Bob, Rakthar friend. But everyone knows friend isn't friendly enough. Yes, Bill Space Herpes. Bob the Elemental.
Hey,
I do like
you
names.
dragon fucker, do you need assistance?
Yep.
Reminds me of the comic I saw where the guy's like about to have sex with the sexy female fire elemental, and she looks at him and she says, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And he says, "Yeah, baby, I've got fire resistance. I'll be fine." And then the next panel, you see the fire elemental explaining to their child, she says, "And that's how your father died."
Yep. But yeah, it's in the lore, but people don't ever really seem to think about the fact that, yeah, you're draconic bloodline sorcerer. Yes, but what does that mean? It means one of your ancestors fucked a dragon.
Well, to be fair, a lot of dragons can take the form of humans or mortals anyway, so they typically do that, and that's how that ends up happening.
A lot of the good dragons can. There's a lot of fucking people running around saying that, yes, I'm a black dragon sorcerer. And when you're dealing with a lot of the chromatics aren't really shape-shifting very often. I have a red dragon bloodline. Okay, so one of your ancestors looked at something big and scaly and went, I want in it. Or, what could be even worse, one of your ancestors looked at something big and scaly and went, I want that in me.
Yeah.
You're either the descendant of a brave male adventurer or the descendant of a really fucking brave female adventurer.
Or rather, depraved.
Yeah.
Little column A, little column B.
Another one where it's like the goblin girl is laying there and she looks at the human. She's like, I can take it. I'm stretchy. And the next thing you know, you see her like gravestone
Yep.
with the goblin's name on it. It's like, ooh.
Yep.
But I'm not sure about you guys, but I am starting to fade out a little bit. So we will have to call it.
No worries.
Sounds good.
Here. Anything you guys have going on?
I will be eating once we stop doing this. So that's my plan.
Okay.
Work.
I will be streaming tomorrow, and other than that, I'm just enjoying my night, going to do a bit more exercise and dick around.
It's my youngest's birthday tomorrow, so
Oh, very nice.
well,
Happy early birthday.
it's his birthday today, but tomorrow we're doing the celebration.
In that case, happy early belated birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the only restaurants in town that actually has a gluten-free menu that is affordable.
Yes.
I think the other place in town that actually my stepbrother works in, the average plate is about $45.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a lot like it's all pretty much like gluten-free stuff. So it's like, yeah, I'll have to save up to send you there, and you will be the only one eating. Like, but yeah, no, it's no, it'll be fun. He likes eating there, so it's he digs it. But with that, the zoo is closed. We're skipping parting thoughts, and you guys have a great night.
Bye, guys.
Have a good one.